Oops. Now my daughter's calling. She's just gonna have to wait. She started a new job today. Hi. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's great
Karen?
to see you again.
Yeah, it's so good to see you. This is Karen and Juliana.
Nice to meet you guys.
But just kind of connection here around NBC, just so because I mean, so I guess some people maybe that will show up here tonight don't have any NBC stuff, and others will. Aw, there's another person. Um, there's another person. Wow, I had
You
no
seem
idea.
so pleasantly surprised at each
I
person.
really had no idea. I'm like, maybe nobody. I'll just be sitting here talking to myself for however long. Oh my goodness, this is fun.
And it's not even 7 yet.
I know. Hi, welcome everybody. I'm holding on for a second to see who else is going to show up here, and I'm very happy to have you here. I had no idea whether anybody would show up here at all. So
My picture. Hi, Cindy. I'm trying to get my video. There. Hi.
Hi, how are
Hey, how you doing?
you? Good, very good. Oh, it's funny to see different people from different parts of my life. Thank you for being here. I am waiting just a few more minutes to see if we have anybody else show up, and then we'll officially, actually it's 7 o'clock now. So yeah, let's just start because I don't know what I'm doing here. I just figured I would come on and, say hello to people and answer questions. In the world of NVC, some of you guys have been doing this with me for a while, this nonviolent communication thing. We typically start with something called self-connection practice, which is connected in with brain research and slowing down and getting a sense of what's going on for you internally. If you're new to this, it might be interesting for you to know that I start all of my meetings out like this. I start all my classes out like this, even if it seems weird to those people out in the world. This is how we start, right? And usually people are very grateful for it. I've had occasionally when people are like, what the heck is this, but so I am going to invite everyone just to close your eyes. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can look down at the ground, okay? And just take a few sweet seconds here to pause. Usually when we close our eyes, I think for most of us, there's a lot of busyness going on, a lot of thinking going on. And I invite you just to take a breath and allow yourself to get here, present in this space with me and everybody else on this Zoom call. And just be with whatever is there without having to change it, noticing sensations internally and how they show up for you. And then if you want to start to label those sensations into what they mean for feelings, what are you actually feeling right now? And in NBC, we learn to tie everything to needs. So if you're feeling things that are pleasant, it's because you have needs that are being met right now. If you are feeling things that are maybe uncomfortable, it's because you have needs that are not being met. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes. And we could just go around real quick and introduce ourselves, and maybe even say like your connection and why you're here, or yeah, related to NBC or me or whatever. And if other people come in as we're doing this, we may stop just depending upon how long it takes. But I'm Cindy, and when I closed my eyes, I was feeling happy and grateful, and even surprised that there are people here. I am. My needs are being met for connection and interest and care. And this is my friend Juliana.
Hi. I'm Juliana. I am here because, well, Cindy asked me to be here, truthfully. But I probably would have been here anyway if she hadn't. I work for Cindy, and I believe in all of the work that she does. I do it too. And yeah, that's the main reason why I'm here. When I closed my eyes, I noticed some achiness in both my stomach and my head. And yeah, that is around, I guess I just have a need for wellness and comfort.
Hello?
Or-
Are you staying in the car?
But I'm also
I'll stay out here.
excited
Is the car on?
and celebrating community. And I will pass it to Karen.
Hi, I'm Karen, and let's see, I guess I've met Cindy kind of a couple times through NVC things, and I work at a school in Leon County, so I've also been through her training through Leon County schools, and I finished reading her book recently, so I'm feeling, when I close my eyes, I was feeling relieved and excited. This really met a need for presence for me. And also I'm feeling curious just to share and talk about the book.
Thanks, Karen.
And I am sending it over to Ruby.
Hi. Well, my real name is Lisa, but from camp, I know Cindy from camp, which she mentions in the book, and that was my whole family's nickname was Ruby. I'm feeling anxious. I have no idea why. I have no idea why. Like, I'm sitting here, and when you talked about how you feel, and I'm like, why do I have no idea why I feel anxious. It's odd. And I asked myself, because your book has really opened my eyes to a million things. So I'm like, why am I feeling this way? Like, I don't see a reason. So, but I'm happy to be here. I'm not nervous or anxious. I don't know why I feel that way.
Yeah. Well, that's why when I teach it, we have this really cool little sheet, needs and feeling sheet, which is also in the book. And you can explore your needs, because I'm guessing it's connected to a need. So later you can do that. But I'm so happy to see you and have some kindering people represented here. I see Lauren Gelberg, you're here also. So we'll pass it to you. We're checking in real quick with our names, what we're feeling, a need that's connected to the feeling, and maybe why you're here.
So I'm glad to be here. Yep. Way back in the day when it was my first year as a counselor, and you were one of my campers, and you won Miss Kindering of the Year. And so I was eager to read your book because it does dovetail with a lot of what I do in my life. And I would love to talk longer. I know I have a family event that occurred at the last minute. So it is a powerful book. I think there's a lot of meaningful ways to interact and to communicate that can only help improve relationships. So coming from that therapeutic perspective, I wanted to be here to support you.
Yeah, thank you so much. When I got your email, I felt so touched and happy. And yeah, I could tell that there was a lot of overlap in our experiences. Yeah, so even though you have to run, hopefully we'll keep the conversation going.
I would love to. Yep.
And you talking about me being one of your campers, first campers, I got a little bit teary-eyed here when you said that, Lauren, to be honest. Yeah.
Well, kindering is as much my happy place as it was yours, so it's there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Erin, you want to check in?
Yeah, sorry, I was having trouble unmuting myself. I'm Erin. I checking in. I felt giggles and joy and nostalgia and curiosity also. It's great to see you again. I've been thinking about NVC for a while, and I just started reading the book. I still haven't finished it yet, but I've never been to a book review before, so I'm just like, I'd love to learn it, talk to you about it, hear from you about it. So I'm excited.
Thanks. I don't think I've ever been to a book review before either, and I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm just here to talk with you guys about it. So glad to have you. Bye, Lauren. Thank you. How about we pass it to our friend Susan?
Hi, I'm really glad to be here. So I pre-ordered the book and I have yet to read it. I think I read 2 pages, but I'm really excited for you, Cindy. And I've been in a couple of NVC classes, and oh, so nice to close my eyes, but I realized just how frustrated and anxious I've been feeling. I'm doing caregiving for my 90-year-old mom with dementia, and I haven't had a break in a couple days, and I'm really like ready.
Mhm.
So, but this meets my need for connection. So I'm really glad to be able to connect with some people and listen in. Thanks.
Thanks, Susan. How about we pass it to our friend Alana?
Hi, I'm Alana, and I'm in Colorado right now. And I am here because I greatly respect Cindy and have learned so much from her, taking her intro to NVC class and then going to the empathy gyms. Try to go weekly, but I've been traveling a lot, so it's hard. But I also wanted to be here because as someone who creates, I'm a choreographer and dancer, I just know how important it is to get feedback on your work. And Cindy was saying, she put this book out into the world, and you're really vulnerable when you do that, and you pour everything into it, and then often you don't really get to receive kind of feedback that you hope to get when you put something out there. So I just really wanted to support in that way, even though I have to leave early. But it really was important to me to be here because I know how important it is to get feedback.
Yeah, thank you. And it's fine. I set this up as a drop in, drop out thing.
Yeah.
And the checking in thing, again, is just off the cuff. So, because we will move more into discussion. I'm noticing we have 2 last people to check in, Brenda. And then Kristen, I did get your chat that you're going to have to jump off at 8 too. So Brenda, yeah, you want to say hello and what?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, when I closed my eyes, I just felt curious about, I wasn't really sure. I don't think I've been to a book review either. So, but just happy to meet some other people in Cindy's life. And I found out about NVC about a year ago. And so, yeah, and then it wasn't too long after that I joined the intro training. And then I've been coming to the empathy gym at least once a week for the rest of that time, pretty much. And I also have just learned a lot and grown a lot in NVC, and really just value it so much in my own life, and have started teaching it to some younger kids in a homeschool co-op that I have, and then also some other friends and stuff. So anyway, but yeah, just really glad to be here, and
Thanks, Brenda.
I appreciate everything. Yeah.
And Kristen, you want to check in? We see your picture, but we don't see you. Your picture's really pretty, by the way.
Okay, so I'm gonna stick with the picture today, if you guys don't mind. I didn't have an opportunity to check in because I logged in late, but I've seen some book reviews. I think this is like the first one I've been actually invited to, and this kind of gives me a tingly feeling because when Cindy mentioned to me that she was going to write this book, and me and Cindy met on the other side of NBC, and then we developed a really good connection with me and my son, and when she wanted to ask to be a part of this book, I know she felt a little hesitant, but it made me feel very honored because in my thought process that everything that we went through, that it would touch someone else by her writing. And so actually seeing the book in fruition just is kind of one of those unreal things. So um, that is kind of, it's meeting my need for a connection, and more of a, I'll say a flying connection, because this book can go anywhere in the world and it may, touch someone. Well, I know it will, someone somewhere, out here. So, and I see some familiar faces from the class, so kind of like a reunion almost. So that's all I got for today.
Thanks, Kristen. All right, so I am gonna open it up to any questions or comments. Before I do that, I was thinking one way that I'd like to start this is by reading one of the poems that I didn't put in the book. I don't know, for those that have read the whole thing, you may or may not have skipped the back part, which was the appendix. And in the appendix, to me, it's the most important part of the book. It's filled with a lot of my poetry that I never had any intention of putting out to the world. Most of them are about the kids that I worked with when I was at Community Connections, and who I did, I was teaching nonviolent communication to them. I was living it with them. I was living and breathing and moving with them using the process, which ultimately really brings a level of connection I find that you don't typically have in the world at all. So to be able to have this kind of deep, close connection with youth like that was such an honor. I mean, such an honor. And it was also, though, really painful at times, because I got to see like the behind the scenes, like what's really going on. Like, I mean, I think we all have kind of sort of a notion, but I mean, we're talking like heart to heart, deep details, right? And yeah, I used to just wake up in the morning and have my phone and just literally lay in bed with the kids on my mind, and it just dumped these things, like just boom. That's how they would come to me. They were never meant to be put out to the world. But I also had, in all the years that I worked at Community Connections, my biggest frustration and desire was wanting people to know the kids that I was working with. And just to be really straight up about it, to wanting middle class white people to have the level of intense connection that I had with young Black boys. For the most part, that's who I was working with. And I used to just dream of man, if I could get all of my friends to sit in circle with these kids the way I'm sitting in circle with these kids, if I could get the world to sit in circle with these kids. I have so much faith in all of the people that I know. It's just that we just don't know. We don't know to the level of what I was getting to know. And so I just wanted that so much. So when I was writing this book, to me, it was like my way of allowing the rest of the world to come sit in circle with our kids by putting these poems in the back part. So yeah, and for people to get really a very visceral experience of the level and the depth and the extent of the issues that we're talking about here, that because I don't think these were not isolated. These were every kid I ever sat with over years had these stories, every kid. And this is one that I did not put in the book, because this one I thought would be way too telling of who this person was. And I was trying to get the kid to give me permission. I could never catch up with him. And I also wanted this one in the book because to me, this represented our white boys, because this was about a white kid's trauma, right? And I still, I really wanted there to be some representation there as well. So this is one, I'm not going to even change the name here because it flows too much with it. And I think, it's safe enough. This one's called Will. Will, wrapped in the red, white, and blue. Curb stomp. He educated me through his day after delirium of popping 27 pills. We sat in room B, chairs face to face, toes nearly touching. He educated me on things I didn't need to know. Desperation, deep truths never told. Imagine being 5 on an outing with Dad and his biker friend, witnessing a curb stomp. Look it up, Google it, Wikipedia. It's a thing, curb stomp. They took some Black dude face down, mouth pried open on the curb, stomped his head in with their boots. He watched, his 5-year-old eyes witnessed. That was Will's afternoon outing with his daddy. And his daddy loved him so much, proof to this day, the man's cell phone screensaver. He carries a sweet 3-year-old picture of Will draped in the red, white, and blue. AK-47 over Will's shoulder. Put up your hand, Will. Heil Hitler, Will. Smile for the camera, Will. Good boy, Will. What a sweet picture, Will. I will carry it forever. So will Will in his shaken heart, in his broken soul, as he sits crying, explaining why he's so messy. There was growing up in the crack house too. Hooray for the red, white, and blue. Makes me want to put a flagpole in my front yard, fly the flag at half-mast for eternity, or at least until 5-year-old Will is healed. Amen, hallelujah, Heil Hitler. I know it's tense. It's pretty intense, and yeah, I apologize, but I don't apologize. I apologize, but I don't apologize. There's another poem in the back of the book that talks about like how something about like, you know, to wake up from our slumber, that it's okay. Like the one thing I learned working with these kids for years, which is still amazing to me, is the level of resilience. Like what people really can hold. So anyways, I want people to know the extent, and for us to all like be in this together. And I guess part of the reason why I really wanted to share and open up about the book, and ask, you know, answer questions, take comments, whatever, is because I'm really hoping to motivate many people to kind of be in this with me to move this ship. Because I think it does take all of us learning how to show up differently. It's not an easy thing to do. I'm still not perfect with it by any means. Learning this process of NVC, so I can really try at all times to be in integrity with the compassion I want to be, even though I'm not always that way, right? Like, you know, especially when things get hard, like I believe it starts with us. Even it starts with us, and then it can basically move out into our systems, which are just reflecting what we're experiencing at an individual level. So anyways, I'm just going to shut up right now because I just said a whole lot. And welcome, Nancy. Glad to have you here. And yeah, if you even want, we all checked in and said hello. If you wanted to say hello and what's stirring you to be here.
Hello, everyone. I first came across the Nonviolent Communication book in a yoga teacher training, and just was kind of, you know, tried to wrap my head around it. And then I thought, well, who in Tallahassee does this? Like, there must be people that do this. And I came across your Facebook page, Cindy, and friended you, and you friended me back. And then I just kind of started following, and I thought, oh, there must be people that do this. I'm a faculty member at Tallahassee Community College, and I teach college success. And so I love how this could be woven into that class as part of mindfulness and really just helping students deal with trauma, because I really see the trauma get in the way of their college journey. So that's kind of why my intention for sort of kind of discovering it. And plus it really works. It's really, you know, the more I find that I try to employ the techniques, and it's hard to challenging to do it, that the better my communication is.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you found us. And I think we're going to be doing some training with the new charter school that's going to be starting out at TCC this year. Yeah, they're trying to get all of their teachers trained up before they ever even start the school out.
Okay, that's good to
So
know.
that's pretty
Wow.
cool. Yep. All right, so yeah, we'd love to hear from you guys if you have any questions or comments about the book. I would love to. It's a great subject for me these days. So
I have some comments and questions.
yeah,
So first of all, that poem that you shared, that titled Will, that was very intense, but thank you for sharing. It, you know, one of my favorite things about NVC was learning about the resiliency that we can have and how NVC is such an incredible tool to be able to utilize in addressing trauma and kind of making that transition from sitting with yourself to communicating and being able to express yourself. And I think that's just one of the most important things that we can do for ourselves, is being able to know how to utilize our voice in a way that doesn't hurt or harm others. And yeah, but so thank you for sharing for that. But I wanted to ask you, so you mentioned the most important part of you writing this was the appendix. And I was wondering what's been the hardest, well, two questions. What's been the most joyous part of writing the book? And then what's been the most difficult part of writing and publishing?
okay. Well, first of all, it was so easy for me to write this book. It was weirdly easy for me to write the book. Some people know that I had the name of this book, honestly, I said this. I don't even remember fully what's in the book, even though I've read it, I don't know how many times. But I think I said in the book, I had the name of this book for 25 years. That's no lie. Like 25 years ago, I don't know, it came to me, I was like, oh, I see where my own crazy comes from. It's really obvious where my crazy, I could see my grandmother and then my great grandmother, my grandfather, how it was passed down to him and the way he acted, and then how my mom acts and how she acts with me. And like, boom, here I am. Like I could easily see exactly the way that I would think in the world, how I would move in the world was a lineage, right? And I was like, my link to Mildred. Oh, that sounds like such a great book. Like I'm gonna write a book. I'm gonna write that book one day. And I just kind of put it aside. And then, like I said in the book, when my mom was passing, which was just an all of a sudden thing, it really came out of nowhere. She asked me to write the book because she had been tracking this with me. She had been tracking like our own, like moving through our hard times and learning how to really be with one another in a very deep, whole way, like, full way, where everything was complete and fully talked about and held for each other. And she could see, like, she was seeing what I was building with my business, the Big B method. And we were like, this is crazy, like to see how all this tragedy over generations is now like moving in this completely different direction, and how it has such a potential to turn into so much goodness, So my mom asked me to write it, and then I literally I would wake up like 4 or 5 in the morning. I didn't try to wake up 4 or 5 in the morning. I just woke up 4 or 5 in the morning. Okay, would come half asleep into this office and just started writing it. And so it dumped out of me. I didn't even have to barely I had one day where I was like, I'm gonna work. I have some time during the day. I'm gonna work on it, and it was just so painful trying to work on it in the middle of the day, because I guess I'm in that stage early morning where you're between like your, unconscious and your conscious thinking. So it just really just flowed completely out of me. And it was really joyful to do it. And I think the part that I was so grateful about, but also so scared about, that the last chapter, for those of you who haven't read it, spoiler alert, it's the last chapter is about my mom's, her last month alive and what it was like. And I'm just so glad I wrote that chapter for me, to remember it so deeply in the way that I had it. And, it's been really hard since my mom died, because I've been so okay. I mean, I've been so okay. And if I needed to have some therapy, it was to reconcile why I'm so okay. Like, as weird as that is, like, how can I be so okay? My mom died out of the blue, you know, and it wasn't like I didn't love her. It wasn't like we weren't close. She was so entwined in my life in a good way and in a hard way, as it says in the book, you know. So I'm just so glad that I wrote that last chapter so that I caught why I didn't have pain around it, which is that last month was such a beautiful month for me. You know, there are other people in my family that have had a different experience around it, but for me, there was so much love. There was so much love and so much fun. We were so able to be in this present moment, you know, and I think I was able to capture all of that. And so that was a real gift for me to be able to capture it for me. I didn't know. I was like, should I put this in the book? Like, who's going to care about my mother dying? Like, all the last details of her death, you know? But somehow it just seemed very right to have it there, you know? And I'm hoping that you guys, as the readers, are having that experience. The other very scary thing for me to put in the book was just all the details about my own inner workings, right? Like my own insecurities, right? Okay, here you are, whole world. Here are all of my insecurities for the whole entire world to know. And it was weird when I wrote it too. This is the last thing I'll say about this. I had this epiphany of like, I couldn't have written that book when my mom was alive. I could not have written the book. Like, I think she would have agreed that everything in it was truthful. And there would have been a part of her that was been really, really proud and touched by it. But it would have been embarrassing for her because there were things in there that, you know, didn't always paint her in the best light. So I think it would have been hard for her. And I hope that I handled all of that with a lot of sensitivity and grace. I think that I did. Yep.
That's really neat. Again, I haven't finished the whole book, but it sounds like a lot of your story and the book itself is just full of a lot of people that have really touched you, and it's part of, you know, their stories as well that you're sharing to the world. And I think that's so neat.
Yeah, the other hard thing was my father's still alive and my aunt are still alive, and I didn't tell either of them about the book. And then I was like, oh my God, like then to be in integrity with NVC with that going on, like how do I navigate that? You know? Because I'm all about like trying to live this, like, you know, live what I'm teaching here. And my dad, because it didn't even thought again, because it just came out of me. It was my processing of my mother's passing. Like, that's really what it was. It took about 2 months, give or take, to write of it, just waking up in the mornings. Yeah, and with my dad, I didn't think he'd really probably be interested or even care for that matter. But then there were some things in the book at the last minute I pulled out because I was like, okay, this might be hard for me to put this out to the world, you know. So I pulled some things just in case, just to hold him safe as possible. And then, yeah, he knows about the book now. Apparently he is going to read the book, but all he cared about really was how many pages were in the book, which is really funny to me.
Like, you know, like how big is the book type of thing.
Yeah, because if it's big, the bigger the better, I guess. I don't know. It's a funny thing. Yeah. What else? Anybody else have a question, a comment, anything? Go ahead, Alana.
My comments relate directly to what you were just saying, that in reading the book, the parts that touched me the most were definitely the parts about your lineage, but also, so it was like this macro, you know, like all the generations and this family history, and then the micro of that last month with your mother, like so moving. I cried and I cried. yeah, it was just really powerful to have that vulnerable and intimate, all those details. And it also gave me a lot of hope about how it can be.
Mhm.
I'm getting emotional now. Like, I have an amazing relationship with my family, but I'm very scared about losing them.
Mhm.
And hearing how, your last month with your mom was so moving to me. Like, just to know the possibilities.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so, and of course, yeah, all the healing of the trauma was really, really inspiring, and that you can track it. I think it made me think about my history more than I ever had before.
Hmm.
I'm not that connected, like, with my ancestors and with my family tree. And I think the fact that you really dove into that helped me to connect with mine. Like, I contacted my dad and asked him a bunch of questions, and it was a catalyst for a lot of discovery for myself.
Mm.
So those were the parts. Like, I think, of course, the way that you clearly explained how NVC can work in your life to heal trauma was so important. But I think what you added with the personal part of it is what made it extra special.
Mm.
So thank you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to hear that, because those were the parts I had the greatest question about. And can I respond to some of what you shared?
Yeah, please.
I feel happy hearing what you said about, just thinking about people passing, and that this gives you some hope, because in processing and going through my mom's passing, and even still like reconciling how okay I am. It's like there's no space in our society to be okay when someone dies. Like, there's no, like, you never hear of that, you never hear of being really okay. And for me, like, her death was so beautiful. It was beautiful. There was so much beauty to it, the whole thing from beginning to end, honestly. Like, that's what it was for me. And I'm still like, I don't usually have a place to even be able to say that because it's not how people experience death, especially a death of a mother that they're close to, and that came out of nowhere. It'd be one thing if maybe, we were ready for it and it had been happening. No, my mom was fully alive, vibrant, and then dead in a month, like, that's how it happened. So, yeah. So I am happy to be able to say, and that there, it's an interesting thing that, to be able to have space. Oh, I know when this came to me. I was listening to the song the other day, which I think, Juliana, I got from you, the one about oh, what a day. What is the glory? What is the
I
name?
think it's just called Glorious.
Glorious, yes. And the last line of that song, I've always really loved that song, but the last line of that song is something like, even endings can be sweet, oh, what a day.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought, yes, that's exactly it. Like, yes, even endings can be sweet, there's no place for that typically. So I'm really happy to just be able to say that a few times, because I have struggled with, like, how can I be so okay? What is wrong with me that I'm so okay? Yeah.
Well, Cindy, I wanted to say on a few things. The reason that I really wanted to be on this. Can you hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Knowing you, your sister, your brother in the camp environment and reading your story, now I'm gonna cry. Um, it just was like it was a shock, you know, because as you said, people would never know. And I'm reading a story, and I'm reading about the communication and how to communicate with people. And I don't know, it was just staying, like your story was staying with me. And I actually with my dad these days, helping him out. But I said, oh my dad, this Cindy's story, it's like it's like I can't, you know, it was just became a part of, like, it's staying with me, you know, like you see sometimes a movie and it just stays with you, like this is staying with me. And I just feel like every emotion, as I'm reading your book, like every emotion all at once, like I've never been affected by a book like this before. So I just wanted to thank you for writing this. I'm not really sure why I didn't have anything trauma like you had, nothing, not even close, nothing. I mean, everyone has their thing, but I didn't have trauma like you had trauma. I mean, I've been blessed. So why this is affecting me so much, I'm not really sure. But I feel like I need to do something with that. You know, I'm very more curious about, because I have to learn how to communicate better. Everyone does really, but so I want to really learn more about this process and everything. So I just want to thank you for writing this book and sharing your story.
Yeah, well, it means so much to hear from my kindering people. I can't tell you, like, and to hear the way that it has affected you and you're not even sure, like, just, oh God, it's so good to hear it. It's just so good to hear it, you know, because truly if I didn't ask people to come here and share, like, I'd have no idea. I'd be operating in a vacuum, like, oh, okay, yeah, people liked it, you know, like that's where I'd be with it. So it's very, very, I feel very touched. And I guess it's meeting my needs for shared reality, being seen, inspiration, hopefully, you know, hoping to inspire people to do whatever it is to contribute in whatever way that you're moved towards, given what, you know, I was able to share. There's also something about, like, Shari Schwartz called me, another kindering person. She texted me the other, these people I haven't seen, like, you know, I don't even know in how many years, like every now and then we have a reunion. So I'll see people and it's so wonderful to see everybody. And it's just like, it's overwhelming to see everybody. Cause then I'm in Tallahassee, Florida. Nobody from my youth comes through Tallahassee, Florida, except for Kathy Murphy has come to visit me a couple of times, but literally nobody. So to hear from people, and Shari shared that, like, she said she cried too reading the book, and I asked her afterwards. I texted her. I was like, "What part did you cry about?" And she said, "I cried when I was reading the part about, like, you having no friends, and how I used to you would come to camp and be like, you know, fully surrounded by friends, and like, and that to know that we didn't even know that that's what you were going through in your life, you know." And she cried, and I was like, I don't know if anybody's ever cried for me, you know. It was really sweet to have somebody cry for me.
Well, I think a lot of people, I cried for you. I'm sure many other people have also.
Yeah, and in that also, to please know, like, I really mean it when I say, like, when I think of what happened for me as a kid, and I say this in the book, I don't think we can compare trauma to trauma. Like, it's just not a fair thing to do. And yet, I really think when I think about the kids and all the stories that I put in the back, I'm like, compared to what they've gone through, it's like nothing over here, like nothing, you know. So that's a big part of the message that I'm trying to put out, is like, I see how it has worked in me, in my mind, you know. Like, and so many people don't have that. And then the whole part about decontextualized trauma, like where people's histories have been lost to them. So they can't trace the lineage the way I was able to trace the lineage, right? And now we're just looking at people like, oh, they're crazy or they're out of control or, no, no. It's all trauma is what it is, right? So I really just want there to be a huge awareness of that. And for people to learn NVC, especially people like in schools, like Karen, and I guess Nancy too, because, well, and Ilana, you're at the college level, I know, because like, nobody knew those things happening for me as a kid. Nobody knew. And what a difference it would have made if I had had somebody that knew NVC and could just stay present and give me empathy in that moment or that stage in my life. Like, so I'm really hungry to have an army of people everywhere. Like, that's a big thing that I talk about. Like, we, now that we know the impact, like brain research and the way that you can actually rewire the brain, even for people that have had trauma, with consistency. So I think it requires all kinds of people everywhere schooling up on the NVC process. So rather than a kid saying, fuck you to you responding with, you're out of here, or your own fight, flight, freeze response is what that is, right? Knowing how to hold space in a moment like that, and also speak what is your truth, but in a way that holds that kid very safe. We all need to learn how to do that over and over and over and over and over again. That's how we're going to interrupt the epidemic. So yeah, I'm on a mission because, it comes from my own woundedness, really. It comes from that. That's what has inspired me to learn this process and try to spread it as widely as I possibly can. Yeah, so thank you, Lisa. I'm really glad to have a kindering person representing you and to know how deeply it touched you. Yeah. Anybody else? I see. Mongoose is one of my favorite musical groups. I've seen them live. I cried the whole time. That's funny. Yeah, that one line is so good.
I was gonna say a little something. I had kind of the same experience as Alana, but the one sentence under the heading was like my number one supporter. And then you wrote, we would both share about the awe of this effort and how it was literally birthed directly from the dark days of our family history going back through time. And so that just really speaks of redemption to me. And it's like, I feel hope around reading your story and, just having hope around my own story and seeing how like I've been able to learn this and I'm passing it on to my children, and I'm seeing our relationship change and become different, become like have a connection on a different level. And I also really appreciated the story of your mother's death, the last days. I don't think we have enough stories like that, and just really use the word sacred several times when you were writing in there, and it really truly was sacred, and I thank you for sharing those sacred moments with us. And then I just sense this like also celebration, and that I was just like, wow, that's really how I want to go. That's how I want to leave this world, and just not ever having someone show me that like that's how you could leave the world. And it's like you have the funeral or maybe like a memorial service afterwards, but to actually think about that ahead of time. How do you want to leave the world, and how your family was so connected there, and really just it is very beautiful, and I was very touched reading that, and I just thank you for putting that there for us to just, I appreciate your openness, meets those kinds of needs, transparency and openness, and I just really appreciate your authenticity in so many ways.
Yeah, thanks, Brenda. You've said that quite a few times over our time together, and it's nice. It's really nice to hear. It's kind of like Aaron and Tavon, you might remember this about when I was teaching at Community Connections. I'd often say to the kids, I had this aha years ago, just to be this honest with people. And I used to just say to them, like, I used to be like, you know what, like, why is it that we hide who we truly are with one another? We've learned like not to be real. I was like, you know what, like, I have sweaty armpits right now. Like, okay, I have sweaty armpits. And I'm telling you this because probably, you know, if you were up in front of people, you probably get sweaty armpits too. And that's not something that we typically like reveal to one another, that we have sweaty armpits, you know? And I said, and now I want to know, like, do you like me any less because I have sweaty armpits, or do you actually like me more because I just shared with you that I have sweaty armpits, you know? And, you know, the kids, of course, they would love that because it gets to your whole point here of like being that real and honest about who we are in life. We've totally learned to do the opposite, to try to keep ourselves, to protect ourselves, right? And yet that's a big part of this work too, is being able to be very authentic, be very much who you are, and take the chance. And I guess in some ways, or in many ways, that's a lot what the book was for me too. Like, okay, one more time, I'm gonna just be very authentic about who I am and how I show up in the world, and, you know, the crazy that was passed down to me through the ages, right? Yeah. And I'm just happy to hear that. Yeah, I think about as I'm trying to reconcile being so okay about my mom dying, I think about my own children. I have 2 daughters, you know, and I would be okay if they're not sad when I die. I'd actually would prefer for them not to be sad when I die. I would prefer for them to be happy and whole around it, and yeah, not fall to pieces, and not even to miss me. Like, I'm okay with them not missing me. Because I don't miss my mom either. That's a weird thing. Like, how can I not miss my mother? I don't know.
Would you say, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna ask, in reaction to that, would you say maybe, you know, that you probably already have all your needs met, and so maybe that could be a part of it?
Yeah, I think that's a part of it. I think she didn't live here in Tallahassee. She lived in South Florida, though we did talk at least several times a week, you know. And we would see each other, but she wasn't in my everyday life in that way. Plus also, I really believe like we were complete.
Yeah, I was thinking of the word wholeness.
We were very complete, like, and we were so fortunate to be that complete. You know, there was nothing left unsaid and nothing left unhealed between us. And I don't think that most people can say that. So when people leave out of this world, there's regret, there's sadness, there's guilt, there's all those things that tend to be in play that are kind of thrown into the mix, right? So I think maybe between the fact that my mom wasn't in my everyday life, you know, and we were really complete. And she, to me, had a beautiful death. You know, it was fun. Who could say? It was fun. We had fun while my mom was dying. We had fun. We did have also some, you know, hairy moments. Don't get me wrong about that. There were some really hairy moments, but there were also some really great moments.
That's a really nice reflection to like a celebration of life. You know, I feel like that's really refreshing to hear, as it, when someone knows that they're passing soon and they can really appreciate life and their relationships and those.
Yeah, well, and I mean, I know it came through in the book. Like my mom was not, I kept saying it, she was unfazed. It was unbelievable. If she had been in a lot of fear and scared, and she was in a lot of pain, there's no doubt about that. I mean, that was horrific. But yeah, she was reconciled with it all. So that was helpful too. If I had to see her emotionally fragile, that would have been very hard, but she wasn't. So that made it easier for sure. Yeah. I have a copy of the book that I put on her headstone, when I guess when it was published a couple weeks ago. I have it in there in a plastic baggie with something that basically says, take it and read it if you want, bring it back when you're done. So, and I was there, I guess, a week ago. Somebody had taken and written something on that piece of paper. So it's kind of a cool little thing to think that random people can take it and come back and put it there, And I don't know, I don't know if does anybody on here not know about the flower? Does anybody? Okay, I have to just share this for people that don't know, because this was just too freaky weird. You're leaving, Alana? Bye. Do you know about the flower? Okay, good. You need to know about the flower, because that was just too crazy to me. Thank you for coming so much. And hello, Tavon. I see you came in the midst of the crowd.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good, good. Thanks for being here.
No problem.
Yeah, so the week before the book was coming out, I kept hearing in my head, my mom used to be like, call your mother. That's literally how she used to say, call your mother. And it used to get on my nerves so bad, call your mother. And then that week before the book was published, I was hearing, come see your mother. She's buried downtown Tallahassee in a great cemetery that I always loved. I was always drawn to it, and never, it's weird that my mom is now buried there. And so I was like, okay, I'll go see her. I usually go early in the morning. Usually we'll do yoga still right by her where she's laid to rest. And I got there. She didn't have her tombstone yet. She just has her little placard with her name on it. I got there. This is, again, like 5 days before I'm going to publish the book or whatever. There's one wildflower with a bud closed up like this, growing right next to the sign. Now, there are no other wildflowers in the whole cemetery. This is not like a thing. You see these wildflowers coming. There's nothing like this. Just one right by her sign. And I just couldn't get over that. I was like, there's a flower getting ready to bloom right next to her sign, like right next to her name. And then I was joking with my husband. I was like, I can't go back, because what if it's dead? Or, what if somebody weed eated it?
Oh,
Like, I was like, how am I supposed to interpret that? But I went back on the day that I was publishing the book, and there it was. It had bloomed. There's just one little sunflower, literally blooming right next to my mom's sign. It was just too much to me. Yeah.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah. Too much. Any other questions, comments? Thanks, Kristen.
I was just going to say, my mother passed away about 11 years ago, and I was so unprepared for what happened or what was happening. And what I love about hearing about your story is you were, and I think probably because of the work you have done, like you were able to be so present for the event. Because I mean, it made me, like, I just have these memories of just wanting to escape it. Like I had a hard time really being in her presence, because I was so fearful of the death. It really was overwhelming and confusing, and I just really wasn't I wish it would happen now. I think I would be so much more prepared, but things happen
Mhm.
when they happen. And I always tell people, be there, be present, because it is something I wish I had known how to do. And I
Mhm.
love the way your book helps people access that experience. And I think that's something I'm really grateful. And even though I can't go back and do it, I, can help other people be present for events in their life that happen that it's just sometimes you just don't exactly know how to experience. You only really lose a mother
Mhm.
once in your life. Some people have two mothers, but most of us just have one. And so,
Yeah, hard thing to know.
yeah.
It's a journey for
And I
us.
love hearing that you were really happy with your experience. Like you did everything you could possibly do to make it the best experience possible.
Yeah,
It's really pretty to hear.
yeah, it is. And my mom, I know I said this in the book, but for those who haven't read it yet, my mom literally said, like, she said that it was an amazing experience. She said this is an amazing experience as she was dying. And it wasn't the drugs talking. My mom was still fully with. Yeah. Yeah. Anything else?
That must have been really nice to hear from her too.
Oh yeah, it was. And she also said, there's so much more. And then she didn't tell me what it was. Like, come on, tell me a little more. Don't leave me hanging here.
It's just like, oh
The
my,
ultimate cliffhanger.
Yeah, ultimate
and now
cliffhanger.
you'll never know.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness.
Yep. Yeah, so I guess before we end for the evening, I am curious, like I've never published a book before. I don't know what I'm doing with this. I'm not, hopefully everybody has a lot of clarity. Like, you don't ever get rich off of a book, by the way. I had no idea about that. It was never my reason for writing this at all. And yeah, that's never been my goal. But for those of you that don't know, just so you have this information, like, you make nothing off of a book. Like, it cost me more to publish this book than I'll ever, unless it becomes like, like a, whatever, 1 million sold copies or something like that. Like, for each of the paperbacks, they were like, what, $24.99, which I couldn't even believe they were selling for that much. But printing costs were so high, and it was color print because I have all the dance floor stuff in there, which I was kind of adamant about. Like, we need to have the color because people have to understand how the whole thing works. I make less than $2 on each of those books. Like, that's how much you get in royalties. And then the hard copy is like, what, I think it's close to $40, which is ridiculous. Again, I make like $2 off of each one of those. So I'm not wanting to like get many people to read it so I can, get rich off of this. I want many people to read it because I want a lot of people to learn NVC. That's what I want. And I want them to learn it in integrity. Like, I want them to learn it, and I want them to own it, and I want them to have it as integrated in their lives as possible, and on and on and on and on and on. That's what I want. I really do. I am not kidding when I say I believe it is the way that we can interrupt the epidemic of trauma. And I really believe that the trauma epidemic is underlying all the violence that we see in our world, all of it. And so here's the gift that I have to give. So now I have this book, and my understanding is, like, a book is a really good way to like get momentum for that kind of stuff, right? So I have it, but I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, okay, let's have a Zoom call and talk about it. Okay.
I thought you were really good at I've just read really the first couple of years. The brain works makes that makes so much sense to me now that you've explained it that way. And the whole story about the mice and how, things really do affect you generations down, and you can kind of feel it internally. But to really have somebody say it and go, oh, this is why that is true, was very, I don't know, like, it was like, oh, okay, that's how that works. And I
Yeah.
thought and you think, oh, these are our brains and we should know how they work. Like, but you just don't, sometimes you just don't know those things. And you can really stop and think, oh, there's my amygdala scared of that for that, and I don't know, it made it kind of accessible, I guess,
Yeah,
to
isn't it amazing?
understanding the
Yeah,
mechanics of trauma.
I see it, Tavon. I just one response to this, if you don't mind. Like, yeah, it is. It's interesting to think that our brains have evolved, right? Like that amygdala, the center part of our brain, is the earliest, most primitive part of our brain. The rest of it has come online, you know, eons afterwards. So, and that's where all of our higher level thinking, you know, the reasoning, problem solving part of the brain, that's all there too, but it's weaker. It hasn't been around as long, right? So we have all of that now. So we just need to catch up to our brains, really. We have to catch up to our brains. And without knowing it, without having that information, like you just said, you're less apt to be able to like consciously make those choices on how you're responding, reacting. If you don't know, then you become more of a victim of it than actually being empowered by it.
I totally.
Tavon, you're gonna say something.
Oh, I was just waving at Kristen Williams.
Oh, she was
Exiting.
leaving. Okay. Yeah, I didn't catch that.
So I had a reaction to what you just said. I really liked how in the beginning you broke down what trauma was, and you reminded me that let's see, it was the Google definition. Also, trauma is not the thing that happens to a person, it's the person's response to the event, the way the brain reacts. So it's just remembering that trauma can be viewed as a reaction versus the actual event, and reframing, you know, how we can utilize accepting how we react, and what other means of a reaction there can be. And NVC is just one of those awesome tools that we can use.
That helps you have a lot of clarity around all of that. That's what I love about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt pretty proud about how I wrote in the book, like how I did break down the NVC chapter and try to align it with what's going on in the brain and why I think it's so powerful, you know, for having more power with regard to your brain. Yeah, I felt really happy about having that in there because I don't think anybody's really lined up those two things yet that I've seen in the NVC world.
Yeah, I wanted to really thank you for that first section where you really, because you know, being an educator, I've studied the brain research before, but I had never seen anybody make such a great connection with NVC and the brain research. And so that was really very supportive of something that I kind of had this feeling about, but I hadn't seen in print. So I think it's really makes a meaningful contribution to make a connection between different things that are out there that people haven't really put together so directly before. I think it will make it, I am guessing it will make it easier for people like educators in the school or people that are trying to utilize these tools as part of outreach with youth or with, you know, as part of their school or their like it's a part of their professional work too, in addition to their personal life, that will help it kind of come together for them with NVC. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's cool to hear. I kind of was imagining, like, I know sometimes when I'm reading a book and those things, like things that I know kind of come together, it's very exciting, right? So I hope that you had that experience. That's nice to know that.
And then to have this visual of Mildred like coming over at 11 to New York City. Like I saw her in New York City and like imagine like she was only 11. Like, you know, and you think about, I mean, it's just, I don't know, just really that whole personal piece of it that you wove in so beautifully to the whole process. I just thought really was very engaging and
yeah, I love hearing that so much again. And I don't know if people realize, but the cover that's Mildred, the older lady is Mildred, and the little girl is my mother.
and like think they just didn't have the kind of resources that we have or the kind of knowledge that we have. I mean, it was all reaction. Like all you could do is react to what was happening to you.
Yeah, and
And
there
I
was
thought,
so much fear in the world in general
yeah,
with all the things that are happening historically. Yeah. And the fact that my mom, like before she passed, like the whole thing of what's happening still in that part of the world again. My mom, how she just, I really believe like there was something like spiritually, psychologically, like that's what ultimately killed her. Like she couldn't, it was just too much of all the same.
believe that.
Yeah.
That makes total sense. And even to tie that in there, the awareness to see that happening, I just thought was really beautiful and touching.
Yeah, thanks. My mom would be happy to hear that. She would tell me that story of her grandmother coming over, I don't know how many times. Like that's one of those stories I heard over and over again through the years. Because she was a big, but her grandmother, Grandma Mildred, who was my great grandmother, was like my mother's hero. Like she, she was her stability. Yeah.
Can I ask you a question about the last, so in the last section where you talk, or not the appendix, but the part where you're talking about your mother, and I sense as a reader lots of gratitude in those moments for the presence and the connection and the love, just like this true, like really pure presence in the moment with her. And I was just feeling curious, as a reader, what her communication style was like during that time.
Oh my
I
God.
can tell, that you're holding her needs and everyone's needs, but I wasn't sure how she communicated with you, if it was in more of an NVC way than maybe earlier in her life, or if it was similar.
So in the last month, she was just, it wasn't like you didn't have a sense of NBC in our communications, but my mother was like oozing with sweetness. It was just so pleasurable to be with my mother. Like, I mean, she was just fun. Like, I mean, I captured it all in there, like her running down the hallway with me, and playing with the nurses and wanting to have a party in the hospital, and just on and on and on. Like even like the day before, so when she was worried about my hairstylist paying him, every person that came into that hospital room, she was like so grateful for, even in all of her pain. It was just the sweetest thing to see. How it was so sweet, truly, it was so sweet to see. I wrote in there, like, I felt so proud of my mom, how sweet she was. And I think I wrote in the book like the last few months. It wasn't just the last few months, it was about the last year, 2 years. My mom went with me. I don't know if I put this in the book. My mom went with me when I went and trained with Marshall Rosenberg. I don't think I put any of this in the book. I had a situation where I used NVC. I knew the littlest bit of NVC with a kid here. I do tell that story in my class. And after I had this humongous like situation with this kid, I was like, oh my God, I got to learn more of this stuff. And that's when I went out to New Mexico to train with Marshall Rosenberg, who was elderly at that point. It was one of his last trainings he was ever doing. For those of you that are new to NVC, Marshall Rosenberg is the guy that developed NVC. And my mom went. It was a 9-day intensive training. And my mom went with me. And I always used to joke in my classes, and really not joke, like, if you really want to learn NVC, go with your mother on a 9-day intensive training. Because it's going to really force you to use this shit, because my mother was driving me crazy. She was angry with my sister. She was in a fight with my sister the whole time we were there. And I was joking at one point, and this is a true story. At one point in those 9 days, I was up in the middle of the night. We were sharing a room. And we had this like little coffee area where all the participants, there was like 40 or 50 participants taking this 9-day training. I came down in the middle of the night and I literally like laid on the ground. I was like, somebody fucking give my mother some empathy, please. Somebody, because I can't do it. She's driving me crazy. Okay. Somebody, please, somebody, dear God, give my mother empathy, because I couldn't do it. And then I used to joke that, like, even Marshall Rosenberg, like, he had nothing on my mother. He could not penetrate. Like, he could not get through that wall because she had so much trauma, and it was just so hard for her to learn, And in the last couple of years, year and a half for sure, she started listening to my podcast. And all of a sudden, I started seeing her changing the way she was responding to me. Like, she would ask before she would give me advice. She would ask. And it was miraculous. Like, it made all the difference in the world. She would be like, do you mind if I say a few things? And I would be like, no, not at all. Go for it, mother. Like, it made such a difference just to have her ask. Then all of a sudden, I was open to what she would say, So yeah, I started seeing that she was beginning to understand. And then I did write in the book how we had that one last huge fight. She died in May. We had that huge fight in February, but it was perfect, really, because it allowed us to surface everything and use the process. We fully used the process with one another to be able to have a lot of closure, a lot of closure. Yeah. So I think does that answer your question?
Yes, that does answer my question. Thank you for giving all that clarity.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. I was curious about that as I was reading the book.
Yeah, we didn't really need to use it in any way in that last month because it was just smooth. The whole thing was smooth. There was it didn't need to. I did have to use it some with other family members, like, to pull on, because it was tense. It was a very tense moment, you could well imagine, right? Between all of us. And my brother and my sister literally moved into my house for that whole last month. We were all together, which was also, in my opinion, a blessing, to get to spend that kind of time with my siblings. So, yeah.
I'm curious to see a picture of her now. Do you
My
have
mom?
Yeah.
Well, I actually keep this right above my desk. It's probably like the only easily accessible. It's not even a great picture of her, but it looks down on me. It's like she's with me all the time. She looks like she's looking down on me. I don't know if you guys can see this. My sister and my mom, we were making these funny faces.
Oh.
We were making fun of like how young people today always make this face. We were all making the face.
She looks so young.
Yeah, my
Yeah,
mom.
she looks just like Miss Cindy. Just like Miss Cindy.
Oh no, she probably looked younger than me. I always kidded that I would eventually look older than my mom.
She was fly too. She used to have like her mink coats and stuff like that. She was very.
Yeah, you did meet my mom a couple of times. Yeah, remember I would tell you that she's such a diva.
Yeah, you did. I was like, she was sporty. Like, yeah.
Yeah, she was sporty.
She was sporty. She had it going.
And she had it going right up to the end too. I mean, she really did. She was just going strong right up to the end.
She reminds me of some actress, but I can't place it right
Jane
now.
Fonda, probably.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
She does look somewhat like
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
Well, yeah, Tavon, you're leaving?
No, I didn't know that Juliana left. Yeah. I was just waving, but I guess she already gone.
Oh. Yeah. Oh yeah, she said she needed to head out. Okay. Any other questions, comments before we close up for the day?
I also love and appreciate your authenticity, Cindy, and I totally remember the sweaty armpit exercise lesson you gave us, for sure.
Yeah, it's a good way to get connection. Just share that you have sweaty armpits. It works.
It was nice to get to see you, and I think you know my neighbors. Jean Bernard and Faye.
Oh, yeah.
And I was talking about this book. I'm like, oh, I'm reading this book, and it's just really touching. And I'm also and they're like, we know her. I was like, Tallahassee's such a small town. And I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I really want to meet her. And then I saw your thing, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna get to meet her. So
Well, thank you for coming, and yeah,
yeah,
thank you
thanks for
everybody for
doing
coming.
this.
It's such a gift to be able just to talk about it. I haven't really talked about it. My husband hasn't even read the book yet, so I haven't, and I probably wouldn't talk about it with him very much anyways, because that's just not how it would be. So yeah, it's really, really nice to be able to, my sister isn't reading the book because it's too painful for her. She can't, she's still really in a lot of pain around my mom's passing. We've had very different experiences around it. So yeah, I'm honoring that for her. My brother read the book, and he cried, and he said that it was very much on point. But yeah, I haven't really had an opportunity to deeply unpack it with anybody, not anybody. So it's really a gift to be able to do that with you guys. Yeah. So let's take a second. We'll self-connect and check out one last time. We can put some closure. Oh, and if anybody has any ideas on helping me get it out in the world, please help me, because I don't know what I'm doing with this, right? I might do another one of these maybe in a week or so, thinking that might be other people that will read it and want to talk about it. Lisa, if you're in touch with kindering people, feel free to spread the word, because I know we have lots of people all over the place, and I would imagine there would be a lot of support there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll spread the word.
Thanks. All right, let's take a second. I invite everyone to close your eyes. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, you can look down at the ground. And just take a breath or two to allow yourself to get present here. And just notice and be with whatever sensations are swirling inside, wherever they happen to show up. You can kind of put aside the thinking mind, the analyzing mind, just put it aside for a second and be with yourself. Now, if you want to tag a feeling word to what you're noticing, and then the need connected to the feeling. For those of you that are new to NVC, if you're feeling pleasant things, it's probably because you have needs that are being met. If you're feeling some things that you're not enjoying, it's because you have needs maybe that are not being met. So we tie the need in. It's always about the need. And when you're ready, I invite you to open your eyes and we can check out. And I'll go first just to get us rolling here. I'm Cindy again, and when I close my eyes, I feel very touched, very grateful. Yeah, I am celebrating support, interest, connection, shared reality, kindness, care, many things. And this is my friend Karen.
Yeah, when I closed my eyes, I was feeling really grateful and excited and celebrating the meaningful contributions, Cindy, that you've made with this book, and also the community around it, that and the awareness around trauma and how NVC can really contribute and how we all make a difference. It's like, I feel very inspired and hopeful.
Thanks, Karen. How about we pass it to Erin?
Yeah, so I'm feeling continued joy, gratitude for being able to share this with you, Cindy, and joy and reconnecting again, and excitement over your mission to get the word about NVC out more. I'll also spread the word. It's such a great tool, and I believe in it so much. So thank you.
Thanks, Erin. How about we pass it to Lisa?
Well, at the beginning, I said I was anxious, and I'm not anxious at all anymore. I feel more just calm. So
Mhm.
whatever happened here, whatever need I needed, it was fulfilled.
That's sweet. Probably connection, safety, ease, interest. There's probably many things if I had to guess. Yeah. Acceptance. How about we pass it to our friend Nancy?
I also felt really happy and at ease and joyful over the sense of connection to people who also value this tool, and celebrating your accomplishment of writing your story and sharing what you've learned. Just it's really a blessing to be around people who share that same value of wanting to really be helpful to people and not hurtful. And how can we make the world a better, kinder place where people feel valued and heard and listened to? And it's a skill I can learn, and I can learn how to do it and teach other people.
Thanks, Nancy. How about we pass it to our friend Tavon?
Okay. At the moment, I'm feeling well. Just this whole experience. I'm feeling touched and warm, and needs have been met for like inspiration. Like definitely like when you shared the part like of her like not knowing NVC or like having complications, and then like when you was like then eventually like being open to it, like listening to the podcast, I believe,
Mhm.
and being like open to it, like I was like, it gave me like some hope, like maybe my mama might do that one day. and like yeah, so celebrating that, and yeah, just celebrating some hope and inspiration, and yeah, and inspiration as well.
Are you
And
open? Are you open to some advice?
sure, sure.
I know your mom. Send her the podcast.
Okay.
Listening. Tell her to start from episode 1 and keep going. Tell her Miss Cindy said that I should send this to you.
Oh, you gonna take the heat?
Don't take the heat. She won't give me any heat. She likes me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's pass it to our friend Brenda.
Okay. Yeah, when I closed my eyes, I just felt excited, and I had a lot of thoughts going, and they were like, "Oh, what podcast should Cindy go on so she can get known?" Because like when people write books, then they go on podcasts and you hear it all the time. And anyway, that was my my excited thought. But I guess this just met needs again for inspiration and connection with y'all and presence, and a lot of beauty, I would say.
Thank you.
You know,
Yeah, I'm open to podcasts, and I would love to get on Terry Gross. That would be a dream come true. Anybody can help me with that, it'd be awesome. I don't know how you do that. We did get Tom Flanagan here locally did interview me, and it will be on our local NPR station at some point. But he doesn't do perspectives anymore, unfortunately. So, all right, folks. Well, thank you so much for spending an hour and a half with me. And yeah, if you have any other thoughts, comments, you could always reach out. I really very much treasure your input and your time in reading the book and sharing about it. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye, you guys.
Nice to meet you
Bye.
all.
Nice to meet you.
You too.